Millionaire, surprised to hug black woman on the bus, but she wakes up in shock. The crowded bus rattled through the city, a world of chaos wrapped in noise. Valentina's heart raced in tune with the engine's growl. Her daughter Beatrice, usually full of energy, was sprawled against Valentina's side, breathing unevenly. "Just hold on, sweetheart," Valentina whispered, panic knotting her stomach. Today wasn't supposed to be like this. They were just going to the market, not a visit to the doctor. Lights blinked past the filthy bus windows, neon hues blending with everyday grays. But inside the vehicle, a strange calm cocooned them. In a flash, a well-dressed man jumped onto the bus. He wore a cap pulled low, an oversized hoodie hiding his frame. Yet, something about him shimmered with charm. The faint echo of laughter followed him like a shadow. Valentina felt a jolt of curiosity as he scanned the bus. His warm gaze finally landed on her and Beatrice. "Is she okay?" he asked. Valentina nodded, though unease twisted inside her. The stranger pulled out a small bottle of water and gently offered it to Beatrice, who blinked up at him, utterly confused. "Here, let's get some fluid in you." As Beatrice sipped, Valentina felt an unexpected warmth bloom in her chest. Who was this man? Why was he on a bus when he clearly belonged in a world far removed from public transportation? The atmosphere shifted. The air thickened with mystery, making each breath heavier. Then, just as quickly as that warmth spread, the looming shadow of Valentina's past cast itself across her reality. The bus doors opened with a hiss, and there stood Thomas, Beatrice's biological father, the man who had left them, the face that haunted her dreams. Tension sparked in the air, and Valentina's breath caught in her throat, her heart crashing like thunder against her ribs. "What a surprise," he sneered, stepping onto the bus like a ghost made real. The chatter of the other passengers. "Look who it is, the single mother still struggling. Found yourself a new plaything, I see?" Valentina's cheeks flushed with embarrassment and fury. The gears of her heart cranked painfully, each emotional turn exacerbated by the surprised glances of strangers. "Get lost, Thomas," she snapped, instinctively shielding Beatrice. The sudden heat of anger surged through her, but her resolve faltered like a candle against the wind. "Why not embrace your reality?" Thomas taunted, and the corners of his mouth twisted with malicious delight. Valentina's eyes darted back to the stranger beside her, the man in the hoodie who had stepped closer, standing as a silent wall between her and the chaos of her past. Confusion flickered in Beatrice's eyes as she tasted the bottled water, her little fingers clinging to Valentina's arm. In that moment, as Bernard, though she didn't yet know his name, looked down at them, the world seemed to pause. A soft glow illuminated his genuine smile, a lifeline. As the noise surged back and Thomas's voice echoed in her mind, Valentina felt the weight of her choices pressing down hard. With the future teetering on a nice edge, she had to decide. Would she allow hope and maybe love to sprout, or would her past crush the delicate buds before they could blossom? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without prior notice. Take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you are still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, leave that powerful like that helps me a lot with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, from which city are you watching this? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Valentina's pulse raced, a low hum of desperate. "Leave us alone," she said, her voice shaky yet firm. Beatrice clung to her tighter, eyes wide and fearful, like a deer caught in headlights. In that moment, Thomas's laughter rang out, harsh and cruel. "Is this your knight in shining armor?" he scoffed, waving a dismissive hand towards the stranger. Living in a fantasy, aren't you? But before Valentina could answer, the bus lurched violently, a sound of metal grinding against metal, screaming through the air. The jolt sent everyone stumbling, the vehicle shuddering like a living thing. Panic washed over the passengers, and the world outside blurred into a chaotic mix of colors. Lights flashing, screams rising. "What's happening?" Beatrice cried, her voice muffled against Valentina's side. Valentina's mind raced. She needed to keep her daughter safe. To her horror, the bus began to tip. Valentina reached out instinctively, grabbing the seat in front of them as the world spun. "Hold on!" she shouted, her voice shaky with fear. People screamed and the bus lurched again, tilting dangerously. But then crash! The sound reverberated through the air, shattering glass and sending screaming passengers scrambling. Valentina caught a glimpse of chaos unfurling outside, a truck barreling towards them. Panic erupted, and the atmosphere thickened with dread. The hooded man sprang into action, shielding Valentina and Beatrice with his frame. His eyes were wide, but full of purpose. "Stay down," he shouted, pushing them both low to the ground, just as the bus hit a pothole and lurched sideways, trapping everyone within a precarious balance. Then, in an instant, the bus smashed against the truck. A horrifying crunching sound filled the air, blending with the screams echoing in Valentina's ears. Her heart raced, each beat echoing her mounting fear. Amid the chaos, she felt Bernard, the man in the hoodie, move, his arms tightening around her and Beatrice. "You'll be okay," he murmured, but doubt knotted in her stomach. How could he know anything about survival in this wreckage? Suddenly, there was silence. The bus hung in a weird stillness, a calm before the storm. The world seemed frozen in time. Then the sounds of moans and cries came flooding back, and amidst that anguished chorus, Thomas's voice broke through, clear and loud. "Unbelievable," he shouted, disbelief dripping from his tone. But then something shifted in his expression. Surprise morphed into fear. As he turned, eyes wide, they all felt it, a creeping dread. Then came the unexpected sight. A woman emerged from the wreckage, blood-streaked and disheveled, but alive. She fought her way through the crowd, and then Valentina's heart plummeted. The woman looked just like her, the same eyes, the same hair. "Valentina?" she yelled, desperation and recognition in her voice. "I need to tell you." Time stood still. Shock rippled through the bus. Who was this woman? How did she know Valentina's name? Heart pounding, Valentina felt the world tilt again. Her past suddenly surged back with a vengeance, threatening to pull her into a whirlpool of buried truths. "Stay back!" Thomas shouted, but it was too late. Everything Valentina believed about her past and present crumbled at her feet. The air thickened with questions unanswered. As the noise roared back, Valentina's mind raced with fear and confusion, desperate for clarity. What could this woman possibly reveal? In that moment, surrounded by fear and uncertainty, Valentina couldn't tell if hope was waiting on the other side, or if it was just another cruel trick of fate. Valentina's mind raced as the mysterious woman fought her way through the chaos. The sound of her name echoed like a ghost through Valentina's mind, but the sight of her mirror image, disheveled and bloodied, sent a cold shiver down Valentina's spine. Who was she? This revelation twisted Valentina's reality like a knife, carving into the fabric of her life. "Valentina!" the woman shouted again, urgency crackling in her voice. "You need to listen to me." Her eyes were wild, darting around the wreckage, desperation dancing on the edge of her features. "Stay back!" Valentina shouted instinctively, her protective instincts flaring up. Beatrice clung tighter to her side, her small body shivering against Valentina's warmth. A mother's love surged within her, fighting against the confusion and fear. "I swear you don't understand. It's about Thomas." The woman's voice rang out, piercing through the muffled noise of the chaos. Like a sudden gust of wind, everything quietened into a tense stillness, hearts racing in sync with the surge of uncertainty. "What about Thomas?" Valentina spat, her voice laced with anger and fear. She couldn't afford to lose her grip, not now. The other passengers were frozen, eyes glued to the unfolding drama, their gasps mirrored in Valentina's own shock. He faked his death," the woman yelled, words tumbling out on a flood of adrenaline. "I've been looking for you. For so long. He's alive, Valentina, and he's coming for you." The world shifted. A tidal wave of disbelief crashed over Valentina, ripping apart her assumptions and shaking her core. Every breath felt heavy, as if weighted down by rocks. "That's impossible. He's gone." Her voice trembled, shaky and weak. Each word became a battle as she fought the overwhelming reality clawing at her heart. Across the aisle, a murmur spread among the other passengers, disbelief etching their features. Whispers erupted, half-formed sentences flickering like shadows. "What does she mean? No way. Is this real?" But Valentina couldn't hear them. She was lost, spiraling into the storm of her thoughts. The truth of Thomas's past hung in the air like smoke, twisting and blurring her vision. She felt Bernard beside her, but even his reassuring presence could barely reach through the fog of her panic. "Listen to me," the woman continued, urgency pinching the corners of her mouth. "You've been in danger since he disappeared. I need to help you. Valentina, we can't let him find you." With a sudden lurch, the bus tilted again, and chaos erupted anew. Valentina's grip on Beatrice tightened as the world swayed beneath them. "Hold on!" she screamed, fear lacing her voice. Then, in a flash, it happened. An explosion of shattering glass shattered the moment. A sharp, loud bang echoed, throwing all of them forward. Panic surged as smoke curled in like a feverish breath, filling the already tight space. Screams erupted, mingling with the hissing of metal in the wreckage. The air thickened. Bernard pressed his body against Valentina's, shielding her and Beatrice. "Stay down," he shouted. But the fury of confusion roared all around them. The bus trembled under the weight of panic, and for one electrifying moment, Valentina felt the world tilt. Amidst the chaos, she saw the woman again, a glimmer of clarity amid the fog of fear. "You have to trust me," she shouted over the cacophony, eyes fierce and blazing, holding Valentina's full attention. "You don't know the truth." "Stop. Just stop," Valentina cried back, her heart pounding in her chest. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to shield her child, to escape. Screams rang in her ears, more than just the sound of panic, but the echoes of her past clawing at her. Her old life colliding violently with this new terror, and just as quickly the woman's eyes widened. "No! It's too late!" she cried, terror flashing across her features. In that single moment, her hands rose, as if to protect Valentina from an unseen threat lurking in the shadows. Then the bus jolted again. A roar filled Valentina's ears, and the world faded into an electric buzz. Heart racing, she gripped tighter to Beatrice. Family. Protection. The weight of that choice clawed within her, while something stirred, predatory and alive, lurking just beyond the veil of her perception. But who could she trust? And what truth was waiting to finally rip through her life? The weight of dread pressed in around them, squeezing until the air felt thin, silence wrapping around their chaos like a noose. In that heart-stopping moment, Valentina realized, with dawning horror, that perhaps the biggest danger wasn't lying outside, but within the people she thought she could count on. And that thought sent another shudder down her spine. One question lingered. What path was she truly on, and what price would she pay for the truth? Valentina's heart hammered as the bus swayed violently. The air charged with fear, thick and electric. The chaotic world around her began to shrink, focusing on the woman who looked so much like her. How could this be happening? Her mind raced with questions, but the urgency in the woman's eyes, You and I, we're connected. Horror pierced through Valentina. Connected? How? Her grip on Beatrice tightened as the little girl whimpered against her side, sensing the wild energy rolling off her mother. Tension crackled as Valentina's thoughts whipped back to the memories buried deep within her. Memories she thought she had locked away. The shadows of yesteryear clawed at her mind. The echoes of secrets she wasn't prepared to confront. What do you mean? Valentina managed to ask, her own voice thick with disbelief. The bus jerked, tilting slightly again, and Valentina's stomach lurched. The trembling of the vehicle reflected the shaking in her heart. Suddenly, the woman took a step forward, eyes wide and desperate. "You don't understand," she cried, voice rising above the panic. "Thomas isn't just your past. He's connected to everything. And you." Her words caught in the storm around them. A scream tore through the bus as a man near the front collapsed, clutching his chest, and chaos exploded once more. Valentina's gaze snapped back to the woman, who pressed on, urgency clawing at her voice. "Valentina, you're part of something much bigger than you know." Before Valentina could respond, the bus jolted violently again. Passengers screamed as their bodies were thrown against the seats. Fear surged as Valentina instinctively hunched over Beatrice, shielding her from the chaos. But even in the press of bodies, something sharp cut through the air. A loud bang echoed, drowning everything else out. A sound so sudden and raw that fear seized Valentina's heart. The front of the bus exploded in a rain of shattered metal. A sharp, acrid smell filled the air, mixing with smoke and the screams of the terrified passengers. Valentina gasped, trying to grasp what was happening. Everything fell into disarray. Amid the cacophony, a shadow raced forward, a well-dressed figure from the back of the bus, heading toward the chaos. It was Bernard, the man who had appeared like a beacon of hope. His face was twisted in concentration, determination etched into his brow. But as he reached for the door, an explosion ripped it off its hinges. Valentina shrieked, the world shattering anew. The force knocked her back, sending her and Beatrice tumbling to the ground. She held tightly to her daughter, their bodies framed against the wreckage, terror wrapping around them like an iron grip. But something in the smoke caught Valentina's eye. There, among the chaos, Bernard staggered to stay upright, face pale, eyes wild with fear. In that moment, she saw him reach out, his voice rising above the noise. "Get down!" But then a cry escaped his lips, something soft and agonized. "I didn't want you to find out this way." His words spiraled in the air like a tornado, shattering whatever understanding Valentina had held on to. What did he mean? What was he hiding? And then, boom, an unexpected aftershock hit as another wave of smoke engulfed them. Through it all, confusion swamped every thought. Bernard's face twisted into something darker, something almost sinister, as his voice dropped to a whisper just for her. "You're not who you think you are." The words hung heavy in the air, laden with secrets unshared, leaving Valentina frozen. Her world tilted on its axis, shifting and reshaping while the smoke curled around them, clouding everything. Was it possible? Questions raced in her mind, her head spun. Who was she really? What truth had been hidden? In that heartbeat, everything Valentina thought she knew began to unravel. A raw surge of fear, mixed with desperation, coursed through her veins. The risk of losing everything felt more real than ever as the chaos continued to swirl around her. And just as quickly, she realized they weren't just running from Thomas anymore. Something far darker loomed in the shadows, a truth waiting to explode. How much longer could they endure the storm? Would they survive to find out what lay behind the shadows and the smoke? The question burned in her mind. The world outside, the past inside, everything hinged on this moment. Valentina's mind spun like a top, tangled in confusion and fear. Bernard's whisper hung in the air, heavy with secrets, but the chaos around them pulled her back. Smoke choked the air, thick and suffocating. She wanted to scream, wanted to tear free from this swirling nightmare. The woman, her double, pushed forward again. "You have to trust me. We're running out of time." Just as Valentina opened her mouth to respond, a loud crack echoed through the bus, stunning everyone into silence. The air felt electric, charged with an unseen energy. Everyone held their breath, eyes darting to the door that now hung ajar. And from that opening, a figure emerged, stepping into the chaos. It was a man, tall and familiar. Valentina's heart dropped. No, it can't be. Thomas. He stepped further into the bus, eyes dark and intense, scanning the wreckage. Shock rippled through the passengers. Whispered gasps echoed, disbelief coating the air. Valentina's throat tightened as she fought to breathe. How could he? "Valentina!" Thomas's voice rang out, slicing through the panic. "I'm back." But before he could finish, the woman surged forward. "You shouldn't have come back. You have no idea." Her eyes blazed with a combination of fury and relief. Thomas smirked, his expression slicked with arrogance. "Oh, I know plenty. I know more than you think." Everything felt like it was twisting, spinning into a vortex of chaos. Valentina clutched Beatrice, whose small hands trembled against her waist. The girl's eyes were wide with fear. "Mommy, I'm scared." Valentina kept her grip tight, heart racing. "I know, baby. I'm here." But now the air pulsed with menace as Thomas took a bold step forward. "Valentina," he continued, voice smooth like silk, "you've been living a lie, and those behind the curtain are finally ready to show themselves." Suddenly, there was a loud thud. A massive jolt sent the bus tipping dangerously. Everyone screamed, bodies slamming against each other. Valentina stumbled, trying to keep her footing. Then Bernard was there, arms stretching out to stabilize her and Beatrice. "Stay down!" he yelled, but his voice was almost lost in the swirling chaos. Through the chaos, Valentina's focus was laser-sharp as her eyes locked with Thomas. "What do you mean, a lie?" Panic gripped her throat. Suddenly, everyone's faces had been painted, tinged with fear and disbelief. A sinister grin slid across Thomas's face. "You thought I left for good? That I didn't care? I was taken away, Valentina. They needed me, and now you need to choose a side." "What are you talking about?" Valentina shouted, anger lacing her voice, but doubt bubbled within her. "Choose?" The words hit like ice. She shook her head, confusion spinning. "What side? You disappeared. You left us because it was safer for you. You don't understand what I was involved in." His eyes glinted with something dark, something Valentina was terrified to comprehend. Before she could respond, a loud bang punctuated the chaos again. A deep rumble shook the bus, and it finally tipped. Valentina screamed as gravity held them against the floor. The screams morphed into a chaotic choir as everyone struggled against the weight of the disaster. But her heart raced faster as the dark truth wrapped around her like a snake. What was Thomas involved in? Her breath hitched. What does that mean for us? And then, just as the chaos peaked, a sickening realization washed over Valentina. As Bernard began to pull her and Beatrice close, she felt the weight of his hand tremble against her back. He turned, eyes wide with terror. "Valentina, you don't understand. Not all of us are who we seem." Her pulse quickened, heart racing. As the smoke curled around, the truth burrowed deeper, ready to expose itself. The ground shook beneath them. The world held its breath, the moment suspended in time. In that instant, as everything crumbled around her, Valentina knew one shocking truth. The line between friend and foe had blurred completely, and she was at the center of a swirling storm she had no control over. What comes next, she wondered? What price would she pay for the truth? Valentina's heart raced as Bernard's words sank in, a chill creeping into her bones. Not all of us are who we seem. What did he mean? She clung tighter to Beatrice, glancing back at Thomas, whose dark eyes shimmered with something dangerous. The bus tilted again, chaos swirling. A sickening feeling washed over her. "I'm not choosing anything," she shouted over the din, her voice edged with desperation. Beatrice's small frame shook against her, eyes wide and gleaming with fear. But as the smoke thickened, swirling like a living thing, Valentina caught movement out of the corner of her eye. The woman, her mirror image, was pushing back through the wreckage. "Please, listen, you have to trust me." "Trust you?" Valentina's voice was clipped. "You look like me. How can I trust someone I don't even know?" The weight of uncertainty pressed down, every word a struggle between fear and rising anger. Suddenly, Bernard tensed beside her. "Valentina, you need to know," he began, but a loud crash interrupted him. The metal of the bus creaked, separated from the truck it had collided with. A beam shifted, and a sharp fragment of metal sliced through the air like lightning. "Look out!" someone screamed, a wave of panic crashing. Valentina froze. In that instant, Bernard leaped towards her, pushing her and Beatrice aside, covering them with his body. Time slowed. She caught the flash of pure fear in his eyes. Then, crack! The metal struck home, and Bernard cried out, a painful sound of sheer agony that silenced everything. Valentina gasped, heart tearing. "Bernard!" She reached for him, but he was falling away. Blood spilled onto the floor, pooling against the metal like dark ink. Time snapped back, the world spinning in frantic motion. He collapsed, eyes glazing over as the chaos swirled around them. Thomas stood nearby, shock frozen on his face, a mask stripped away, revealing the man beneath. The woman rushed past Valentina, dropping to Bernard's side. "No, stay with me." She grabbed his face, eyes wide and pleading. "You can't do this. Fight! Fight!" Valentina's voice broke, piercing through the chaos. "What's happening? Bernard, please don't leave us." Desperation clawed at her throat. But as Bernard struggled for breath, something flickered in his gaze. Was it fear? Recognition? "Valentina," he gasped, his voice barely a whisper, "and never wanted you to find out the truth." Before he could finish, the bus lurched again. Valentina felt her stomach drop. The ground shook and everything spun. Then, in a horrific twist, the fabric of reality felt like it was rupturing. The woman looked at Valentina, her expression twisted in a surge of panic, as if she realized something monumental. "You have to understand, Valentina, we were not who we thought we were." Everything shattered like glass. A loud explosion ripped through the air, one that echoed like thunder and seared the senses. The bus lifted slightly, then came crashing down. Screams ignited. Chaos erupted. "Get out!" someone yelled, pulling at Valentina, urging her along as thick smoke billowed. All at once, another figure emerged from the shadows, glistening in the night, silhouetted against flames licking at the bus windows. It was a man she recognized, the head of the agency, a ghost from her past. "Valentina," he shouted, tearing through the smoke, voice booming. "I need you to come with me now. You're in danger." Valentina felt the world spin and her heart raced. "What do you mean? Who are you?" He glanced back at Thomas and the woman. "The truth is buried deeper than you know, and he's been pulling the strings all along." The name Thomas slipped through her mind like smoke. Valentina felt every strand of her life unravel. She looked to Bernard, now limp beside the woman, fear gripping hard. What secrets lay buried within her? What web had been spun tight around her life? The realization crashed down. The stakes were higher than she had ever known. Doubt soaked through her like rain, tasting bitter. Who could she trust in this chaotic war of identities? And in that unsettling swell of confusion, everything changed. The darkness outside the bus wasn't her only enemy. It lurked within, hiding in plain sight. Would the truth set her free? Or was it simply another trap waiting to ensnare her once again? Valentina's heart raced, every thump pounding in her ears like a drum. The chaos swirled around her, smoke thickening in the air, choking out light. She felt the weight of Beatrice against her, small and trembling, her innocent heart echoing the fear swirling in Valentina's own chest. The woman, her double, pleaded with ferocity, her voice slicing through the noise. "Trust me," she shouted, desperation spilling from her. "We don't have time. You have to remember who you are." But the very mention of the past felt like a jagged needle pressing into Valentina's heart. She shook her head, breath hitching. "I don't. What are you talking about?" Suddenly, Thomas stepped closer, the smirk still plastered on his face, that facade of control carefully crafted. "This is just a game, Valentina," he sneered, fingers drumming against his leg, amusement flickering in his eyes. "Don't you see? You were always part of it." Before anyone could react, the head of the agency, a ghost from Valentina's past, burst into the space, urgency coating every inch of him. "Listen to me," he shouted, breaking through the haze of chaos. "Do not let him manipulate you." But just as he finished, an unholy crash shattered the moment. A nearby window exploded outward, showering them with shards of glass. Valentina instinctively pulled Beatrice to her chest, heart racing faster. "Get out!" the agent yelled, panic in his voice. His eyes darted, scanning for an escape. Then the world shifted. An ear-splitting rumble cascaded through the air. It felt like the ground was opening up, like they were all being sucked into a black hole. Valentina staggered, feeling the world tilt as the flames from the wreckage licked hungrily around them. "No!" the woman screamed, lunging towards Bernard, who struggled to rise. "Not like this! You have to—" But before she could finish, another loud explosion erupted, a deeper, more guttural sound than before. The bus bucked violently, and in a blinding flash, a massive weight fell through the roof with brutal force, splitting it in two like a fragile shell. Valentina's breath hitched as she glanced up, eyes wide with horror. And there, framed against the chaos, was the figure of a man, his face plastered with a cold, calculating smile that cut to the core of Valentina's soul. It was someone she recognized, someone she never expected to see again. "Hello, Valentina," he cooed, stepping through the wreckage like a shadow come to life. "Surprised to see me?" Her heart sank into her stomach. It was Michael, her brother, the one she had believed was dead. Panic surged through her veins, flooding every thought with confusion and dread. "You're supposed to be gone," she shouted, disbelief choking her. "How? Why are you here?" Loud whispers rushed around the bus, shock rippling through the other passengers. Eyes widened, mouths agape. That can't be," someone muttered. But Michael just smiled, the twisted grin of a man who had been playing a long, dark game. "You've been a good little pawn, sister. But now the pieces are in play." His words fell heavy, suffocating Valentina's mind. She was in a world where everything blurred, where betrayal reigned like a fierce storm. Thomas laughed, a cold, mocking sound. "Look at you, Valentina. All this time you thought you knew the truth. It's time to wake up." Michael's laughter joined the fray, a chorus of shared darkness. "You never wanted to remember, did you? The truth was always right there waiting." Valentina felt the ground shift beneath her. The air crackled with secrets begging to be unleashed. She glanced between Thomas and Michael, dread gripping her hard. A new reality flooded in, old wounds ripped open under the pressure, the pain becoming almost tangible. Everything she thought she knew collapsed. In that moment, she felt a spark of something buried deep within, something that could change everything. But as the chaos swirled, she couldn't grasp it. The truth dangled just out of reach, waiting for her, taunting her in the grasp of family and lies. And as smoke snaked around them, Valentina felt the world slipping further away. What was it that Michael knew? What truth had been hidden? As she realized, heart pounding, that darkness may hold the key to her freedom? Was this the moment everything unraveled, or was it just the beginning of an even darker game? Valentina's heart dropped as Michael stepped closer, the sound of chaos fading around them. Her mind swirled with disbelief. "You're supposed to be gone!" Her voice trembled, laced with urgency and terror. Michael grinned, a cruel smile that sent chills racing up her spine. "Gone? No, dear sister. I've been very much alive and kicking, working from the shadows." He looked at Thomas, then back at her, eyes glinting with hidden knowledge. "You needed to suffer," he said, his tone chilling. "Everything I did was to teach you the truth. You needed to be prepared." "What truth?" Valentina spat. Tears stung her eyes, a mix of anger and fear. "You think putting us through hell was the answer?" Suddenly, without warning, Bernard gasped. His body jolted, and the woman's hands tightened on his face, desperation written all over her features. "No, Bernard, stay with me," she cried, her voice cracking. Thomas's laughter echoed, mocking. "Fate has a funny way of showing you just how deep the lies run." A hand shot up from behind Michael, an unexpected surge of motion. It was Beatrice, trembling but fiercely protective. "No, you're wrong. We won't let you hurt us." Her voice rang clear, like a bell cutting through the horror. In a heartbeat, everything changed. The ground shook, and a loud rumble vibrated through the air. A massive explosion erupted behind them, a sound so devastating it shattered Valentina's senses. The bus lurched violently, smoke billowing up, swirling like an angry beast. They were all thrown backward. Valentina and Beatrice tumbled, slamming against the cold metal floor. In the pandemonium, she felt a sharp pain slice through her leg as debris rained down around them. "Get up, now!" echoed the agent's voice, urgent and frantic, snapping through the chaos. But everything was a blur. Valentina pressed her hand against her leg, feeling hot blood seeping through her fingers. She fought against the pain, desperate to shield Beatrice, who looked up at her with wide, terrified eyes. "Mommy, I'm scared," Beatrice cried. "I know, baby. We'll get out of here." Valentina gasped, feeling panic clawing at her throat, rising like bile. But just as she struggled to her feet, a bright light exploded from behind Michael. "Embrace the truth!" he shouted over the cacophony, raising a hand as if he possessed some dark magic. A flash enveloped the scene, blinding them all for a split second. Then, silence blanketed the chaos, thick like smoke. Valentina blinked, trying to regain her bearings. But when her vision cleared, everything had changed. The bus was gone. They stood in a vast, open space, something that looked like an abandoned warehouse, dimly lit and eerily quiet. Valentina's breath caught in her throat. Where was everyone? Around her, shadows shifted, flickering like phantoms. And then, before her eyes, pieces of their past pressed forth, memories flashing like images on a screen. Every detail came back. The laughter, the heartache, the secrets buried deep. "Valentina," the woman's voice echoed softly. "What's happening?" Valentina's heart raced, as a wave of confusion crashed over her. "What did you do?" Michael grinned, eyes darting with a manic glee. "I brought you here to show you the truth. Everything we've shared was an illusion. You think it's coincidence? We're all connected in ways you can't even fathom." "Connected? What do you mean?" Valentina's pulse quickened. This felt wrong, so horribly wrong. In a flash, a collective gasp erupted from the shadows around them. Figures started to emerge, familiar faces, their expressions twisted in shock. "Mom?" Beatrice's voice broke through, a thread of hope in the darkness. But instead of responses, a tremble rippled through the figures. Each face reflected confusion, betrayal, pain. "We've been lied to," someone whispered, regret seeping into their voice. "Look closer," Michael shouted, voice booming. "The truth lies beneath the surface. We're here because you brought us here, Valentina. It always comes back to you." And in that moment, Valentina understood. Everything she believed, every foundation she stood on, crumbled like dust. She was caught in a web of lies spun by those she loved, trapped in a nightmare of their shared making. But before she could unearth her thoughts, Bernard's voice broke through the silence, a strained whisper. "Valentina, you're the key. You're not just part of this story. You are the story." As those words sunk in, a darkness boiled in Valentina's chest. Something twisted inside, an urge to fight, to break free. She looked around, taking in the faces that represented both safety and betrayal. The truth lay before her, raw and agonizing. And in that moment of clarity, a pulse of something fierce ignited within her. Would she uncover the secrets binding them, or fall deeper into the nightmare? As she stood in the fractured remnants of her life, Valentina felt the walls close in, reality warping around her. The line between truth and deception blurred, as the darkness whispered promises of revelations yet to come. And all she could do was brace herself for the storm. Valentina stood in the remnants of her shattered reality, the air thick with the scent of smoke and fear. Each heartbeat echoed like distant thunder, thudding heavily in her chest. She looked between Michael and Thomas, both sinister presences in this chaotic space. "What do you want from me?" she demanded, a tremor of defiance in her voice, but inside, fear clenched tightly around her heart. "Want?" Michael laughed, a cruel sound that sent chills down her spine. "I want you to see, Valentina, to understand what you are part of." Shadows danced around them, whispering secrets she wasn't ready to hear. Beatrice whimpered, her small hand clinging desperately to Valentina's leg. "Mommy, I'm scared." The terror in her daughter's voice pulled Valentina closer to the brink. Valentina straightened, determination flaring deep inside her. "Enough of this. If you've come back to hurt us, I swear." But before she could finish, the air shifted, charged with an ominous energy. The floor below them vibrated as if resonating with an unseen force. Everyone in the warehouse froze, their breaths caught in collective expectation. And then, without warning, a blinding light engulfed Michael. It wrapped around him like a cocoon, illuminating the shadows, and for a moment, Valentina could barely comprehend what she was seeing. The light pulsed, expanding like a heartbeat, and then, pow! It exploded, showering the room with a kaleidoscope of colors. Valentina shielded Beatrice, her heart racing wildly. As the light faded, she squinted against the glare and gasped. Michael stood untouched, but he wasn't alone. A woman appeared beside him, ethereal and radiant. She had long, flowing hair and eyes that glimmered with an otherworldly knowledge. Valentina felt a strange pull toward her, as if this woman beckoned her deeper into a well of truth that had previously remained submerged. "Welcome back, Valentina," the woman said, her voice melodic yet fraught with urgency. "You were always meant to join us." "Who are you?" Valentina demanded, her voice shaky, her heart pounding against her ribs. The warmth cradled her fear as the woman smiled, but it held no comfort. "I am Lydia, and I've come to reveal the truth about your existence," she replied softly, stepping forward until she stood beside Michael. "Your past is more intertwined with the shadows than you know. You are not just a bystander in this game," Michael explained, his tone suddenly serious. Valentina blinked, confusion colliding with fear and curiosity. "What past? What are you talking about?" The crowd around them pulsed with murmurings. People shifted, their faces twisted with disbelief as they absorbed the revelation. "What are you saying?" someone whispered, fear lacing their words. "You're a vital part of a larger mission," Lydia said, meeting Valentina's gaze. "But now a choice must be made." Her heart raced. What choice? Panic surged with each word as doubt rippled through her. "Join us or be left behind." Michael's eyes glinted with something dark and compelling, and the weight of his words hit her like a punch. Before Valentina could respond, meaning twisted sharply. The walls of the warehouse began to dissolve, shifting into a swirling vortex of color and sound. "No! What is happening?" Valentina screamed, holding Beatrice tighter. The light grew brighter, engulfing them both. "Mommy!" Beatrice's cry pierced through, a thread of fear that tugged at Valentina's heart. But just as quickly, a shocking silence fell. The brightness faded, leaving them engulfed in darkness. Panic welled as Valentina struggled to find her bearings. Then an earthquake-shattering roar erupted within the void, and Valentina felt herself being pulled apart. The ground shattered beneath them, a crack splintering the air. "Valentina, look out!" Beatrice's voice rang clear, and suddenly everything changed. The darkness lifted to reveal a room, a sterile, white room, cold and clinical. Valentina blinked, disoriented. They were no longer surrounded by shadows and chaos. Instead, sterile lights illuminated a multitude of faces, familiar faces, friends, family. And then a voice came from the corner. "What the hell is happening?" It was Thomas, pale, trembling, staring at Michael with a dawning horror. "What did you do?" Thomas whispered, panic flooding his gaze. Valentina's heart raced. This was a scene she never expected. Behind them, a series of monitors flickered to life, revealing images she thought were long buried. Family dinners, birthdays, moments of laughter. But through it all, a shadow loomed. Remnants of secrets, pieces of a puzzle she hadn't yet grasped. "Are we in a simulation?" she breathed, the realization crashing down like a tidal wave. Michael's smirk faded as dread etched his features. "No, this is where it all began." "We need to leave!" Thomas cried, looking around in despair as a loud siren echoed through the halls, rising in urgency. Time snapped forward, and Valentina realized then the walls around her did not protect them. They were just the beginning of a deeper darkness. "What have you done?" she whispered, a frigid fear settling in her bones as dread clawed its way up her spine. What lay ahead? Only the swirling shadows knew, and they whispered secrets darker than any of them could fathom. The truth was just a heartbeat away, and they had no idea how far they now were from reality itself. The room felt electric as the reality shifted around Valentina. Michael's presence loomed like a shadow, darkness creeping ever closer. "You don't have to do this," she pleaded, holding Beatrice close. Fear twisted inside her, quicker than she could comprehend. Michael tilted his head, a smirk tugging at his lips. "But I do. You need to know the truth." With each word, Valentina felt her heart race, every thump resonating deep within her. "What truth? What do you want from me?" She could barely breathe, chest constricting tight. Suddenly, a loud alarm blared. echoing through the sterile room. The lights flickered. "We need to go," shouted the agent, darting toward the exit. Panic flared. The crowd surged, confusion rippling through like a wave. "Valentina!" The woman stepped forward, her expression fierce. "You need to listen. You are stronger than—" "Shut up!" Thomas spat, the fear now evident in his voice. "We can't let him control us anymore." The space felt thick and oppressive, shadows clawing at the corners. Valentina felt the weight of every gaze pressing down upon her. She glanced at the flickering monitors. Images of her past swirled chaotically on screen. "My life," she murmured, feeling the tremble in her fingers. "Yes, your life," Michael replied, voice smooth like silk, yet two-toned, taunting. "It can be the key to our salvation or our doom." Valentina's breath hitched. "You're both insane. Enough lies." "Then choose," Michael's voice boomed, shattering the tension. "Your choice decides if we break these chains or become their puppets forever." Silence crashed down, heavy and suffocating. Every heartbeat echoed with uncertainty. Beatrice looked between the two men, confusion growing in her young eyes. "Mommy, what do we do?" Her small voice tugged at Valentina's heart, pulling her from the brink of doubt. "Run!" Valentina screamed, adrenaline surging. "We're not letting them win." She grabbed Beatrice's hand, pulling her toward the exit. The agent urged them on. They dashed through the door, slipping into a narrow hallway as the screams behind them grew louder. Faster! They rounded a corner, their footsteps echoing on the cold tiles. But darkness loomed ahead, shadows flickering ominously. Thomas appeared behind them, his face twisted in anger. "You won't escape that easily." He lunged, but Michael held him back. "Stop!" shouted Lydia, raising her hands. "Let them go. This isn't the way." But before they could react, the hallway began to warp, squirming like living flesh. Light flickered chaotically, blinding Valentina. The world spun, and fear clawed at her, desperation pouring through her veins. "You can choose your fate." Lydia's voice cut through the haze. "But you must act now." Valentina felt her heart pounding faster, the ground shifting beneath their feet. "Our fate?" she whispered, realization crashing over her. "It lies within us." And with that, she squeezed Beatrice's hand tighter, determination flooding over fear. Suddenly, a storm of light erupted, illuminating their path. Images flooded her mind, every secret, every truth twisted in the darkness. In that brightness, Valentina glimpsed possibility. With a fierce resolve, she shouted, "We are not victims. We are stronger together." The shadows recoiled around them, the whispers fading. They found themselves on the brink of freedom, but as they pushed forward, Valentina felt a flicker of doubt. Would they escape or be lost forever? The intensity of the moment surged, pressing her onward. They burst through the exit into the wild, breathless and shaken. The night sky was vast, stars twinkling like a hidden promise, but darkness still lingered behind them, nagging at their heels. "What comes next?" Beatrice asked, innocence shining bright against the night. Valentina looked down, searching her daughter's face for answers. "We face it together." But a shadow loomed in the distance. Michael and Thomas waiting for their next move. The fight wasn't over. It was only just beginning. As uncertainty hung heavy in the air, Valentina couldn't help but wonder. Could they really move beyond the darkness? Now, before we wrap this story up, here's what you need to do. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the upcoming exclusive stories that will blow your mind. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to boost the algorithm. Don't wait 1 second more. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Share your thoughts. I want to know what you all think. And don't forget to share this video instantly with at least 5 friends who need to know this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel with these actions. Let's keep this community